Hey YouTube, today we're going to ask the $6 million question and figure out which one is better, whether it be the Glock pistol platform or the Sig P320 platform. But before we get started, I'm going to let you know that none of these pistols are loaded. They've all been safety checked, and as I pick them up, I will show you that they're not loaded. So what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about which one is better, the Glock pistol platform or the Sig P320 platform. And folks, this is an ongoing battle, and these are rivals. They produce pretty much the same thing, and it's a matter of opinion of which one is better. This is kind of like comparing Nike sneakers to Reebok sneakers. Everybody's going to have their opinion, and whichever side you choose to go on, a lot of the times people get online and they get very passionate about their beliefs. I found that out over the years. Very passionate about them. It's unbelievable how upset people get. So let's see if we can do this without upsetting people. So the Glock pistol platform, Glock originated in Austria, and the Sig Sauer P320, the Sig Sauer company, originated in Germany. So they already started off as rivals. If everybody anybody that studies history, they will know that Austria was annexed by Nazi Germany in World War II. They pretty much just took it over and said, "You're us now." And in 1945, when World War II ended, and Adolf Hitler was no longer the head of the state of Germany, Austria broke away and became their own country. Now, there's a lot. That's just very paraphrasing it. There's a lot more that goes into it, but Austria was part of Germany, and they decided to liberate themselves, and now they're a country of their own. So they border each other, and so they're already kind of pretty much set the bar up to be rivals already. So Gadsden Glock was from Austria, and he designed the Glock pistol, and the Sig Sauer, the company originated in Germany. I mean, there's a little bit more goes into that, and they designed the Sig Sauer pistol. Now let's look at a couple of the features of it. Around the early 1980s, Gadsden Glock came up with this design for a polymer frame striker-fired pistol. And this one here I have in front of you is a Glock 19. So it's a polymer frame. It has a striker on the inside that hits the primer and causes it to go off. And his goal was to make a very simple pistol that required very few moving parts, very easy to disassemble, very easy to service, and reliability was his number one goal. And he knocked it out of the park when he designed this gun, and it's been around since the early 1980s, and because of this gun is the reason why we have the whole striker fire craze today, the polymer craze we call it. So very good gun. This one's chambered in 9mm. Just absolutely doesn't have a whole lot of bells and whistles on it. It's just a regular iron-sighted Glock pistol that holds, I believe this one holds 15 rounds. This is Glock 19. This is probably the most popular gun in the world right now. This mid-sized Glock 19. Probably more people own this gun than pretty much any other handgun in the world. I mean, it's just a benchmark for handguns. Now, what I have here is I have 3 Glocks on this side and 3 Sig P320s on this side. And I have directly across each other their counterparts. So these all go with each other. I think these are direct rivals. So if you look at the P320, I'll just show you that this one's not loaded. This one came out sometime in the 2000s, like 2015 or something like that. I'm not really sure. But this gun was made to directly compete with the Glock pistol. When Glock came out with that polymer frame striker-fired pistol, I mean, it was really hard to beat, folks. With the reliability that it offered, the very low cost to manufacture, very low cost on retail, and the lightness of it, the reliability of it, it's really hard to say anything bad about a Glock pistol. But what Sig Sauer did is they came out with their own version of it. And the reason they did that is the military, the United States military, was looking to replace the Beretta 9mm. And everybody threw their hat in the ring, and Sig Sauer being one of them. And this is what the gun that they came up with to present to the military. And we'll talk about that a little more here in a little bit. We're not going to pay attention to any of these accessories on them. We're just going to talk about the actual guns. And this one is a P320 X Carry, I believe they call it, compact, and it's about the same size as the Glock 19 right here. So a very popular gun, and we'll move up to the next ones here. This is the Glock 19X. This is a actual full-size frame, short and slide, and this is the actual one that was presented to the military when they had their little competition. That's why it's in this weird FDE color. So this is the pistol that Glock presented to the government that they wanted to win the contract to replace the Beretta. And we'll talk about what happened for that. We're not going to go into the whole military competition, but this is a 19X. This is when they started changing over from the Generation 4 to the Generation 5. This one has some of the features of both. It has the ambidextrous stuff on both sides. This one comes with night sights from it's got a little lanyard loop on it here. That's what the military required, and just a few little cool features. Very cool gun though, 9mm. This one holds 17 rounds in the magazine and one in the chamber, which makes 18 rounds. But this one actually, this is a factory magazine with a factory extender on it. So this one actually holds 19 rounds in this magazine, but it does stick out the bottom a little bit. So 19 and 1 makes 20. So this is a very high capacity 9mm Glock pistol. The next one up here is going to be what I call a comparison to the Glock 19X there. This one's a little more fancy. We're not going to talk about all the accessories or anything, but this is a P320 Legion, they call it. This is the Carry Legion. So it's kind of got a shortened slide on it, full-size frame. This one's got an infused grip module on it that has weights in it, so you can really hold targets real well. So the gun's very heavy, and this one's all optic ready and got a threaded barrel on it and stuff. But this one here has a little bit of work done from the factory. It has a little bit better trigger on them, so the trigger is excellent on it. I think they call it the enhanced trigger group from Sig Sauer's custom shop. I have no idea what they do to it, but it does have a lot better trigger than most of the basic 320s. Same thing as the full-size Glock. It's a 17 round magazine on it. It's got a little cool Legion thing on the bottom because Sig Sauer came up with a gimmick to try and sell people on the internet something. So they made up a club called the Legion and then called the gun the Legion. So you see the little Legion signs all over them. Very cool gun though, very, very well made gun, very easy to shoot. So the next one's up here. We have the Sig Sauer P320. This is pretty much the basic P320 that you would get, and this one's chambered in 45 ACP. This is called the 320 Compact. So this one here is going to hold 9 rounds of 45 ACP, double stack, polymer frame gun. I absolutely love this gun because I'm a big 45 ACP fan. The slide on it operates so smooth on it. The ergonomics feel good, and it's got a pretty decent trigger on it for a striker fired pistol. But compact carry size, 45 ACP, how can you go wrong? And finally, the last one we're going to show you here that its direct counterpart is my everyday carry gun. This is the Glock 30S. And the 30S meaning it's a compact 45 ACP Glock, and it's got a very thin slide on it. So they thinned the slide down more than they did on the regular Glock 30. So it's a very thin carry size 45. And actually this is what I carry every single day of my life, is this Glock 30S, chambered in 45 ACP. This one here holds 10 rounds of 45 ACP and 1 in the chamber, so it makes a total capacity of 11. So it's one more than the Sig Sauer. So basically, let's talk about what some of the differences is. I ran through what we got here and what some of the differences is. Well, when the military decided they wanted to replace the Beretta M9 and they wanted to move to a different style pistol, these two guys here were automatically the top contenders. These two guys here are the top of their game. They are the top dogs, whatever you want to call them, and they threw in 320 platform and the Glock platform. Well, the government went through all its rigorous testing and all that, and I don't know what all the criteria was and everything, but in the end, the Sig Sauer won. So they picked the Sig Sauer P320 platform to use as the United States Army's or the United States military's sidearm, folks. So all these people on here that argue about the different stuff that I talk about, whether the 45 ACP is better than the 9mm, or whether the Glock is better than the Sig, or the Sig is better than the Glock, they always use the analogy that, well, the cops carry them, it has to be better, or the government does it, well, it has to be better. So all those people out there that make that argument, they have to choose the Sig P320 because the government picked it. They picked it over the Glock, so it must be better than the Glock. So case closed. No, it's not case closed, folks. You don't do everything that the government does. If you did everything the government does, you would run your credit cards up to the max and then not pay your bills, default on stuff, and spend more than you make, and because that's what the government does. So not everything the government does is necessarily right, but they did have reasons to pick the Sig P320 platform. So let's take a look at this Sig P320 platform. What the government wanted was a modular pistol, and Sig Sauer really kind of knocked this one out of the park when they did this. So this polymer frame here is, they call it a grip module. You can absolutely, and I can't do it on camera anymore because YouTube will kick me off, but you can take this slide off of here and you can remove this whole trigger group and put it in a different size grip module. So essentially you can make this a full size gun. If you look real close, you'll see the serial number on here. That is not in the frame right here, this grip module. That's actually in the trigger group, which is the actual quote-unquote firearm, because it has the serial number on it. That actually lifts out and goes into a different size grip module, and you can make it anything that you want. So if you take these two 9mm here and flip one of these over, you'll see the same thing. It has the serial number right here. I could take this whole trigger group out with this serial number and install it into this gun. I can take anything off of this one and put it on here. So it's an absolutely modular gun. The Glock, not so much. You cannot remove any of this stuff from here. I mean, this serial number is actually on the slide. And if you'll look, I wouldn't say permanent, but it's actually in the frame right here. So this frame goes with this slide, and it is what it is. All these numbers match on here. That means this gun was built to stay together just like this. The Sig Sauer, you will not find a serial number anywhere else anywhere on the gun except for that trigger group right there. So that's a big win for Sig Sauer. I mean, it just makes this very modular, very modifiable. You can have any size gun. As long as you have this trigger group, when you buy the original gun, you can buy any kind of parts. You can buy slides, you can buy grip modules or whatever. Have them shipped right to your house. No background check required because these are just plastic parts, and it's just kind of like buying AR parts. So the government went ahead and went with the Sig Sauer. Now, side by side, comparison, like if you look at these two up here, these are the most bare ones right here. The Sig Sauer is going to usually cost a little bit less than the Glock. It's not a lot less, folks. These are all very inexpensive guns, but the Sig Sauer is a little more cost efficient than the Glock. That is another reason why the government picked the Sig Sauer over it, the cost. And folks, whenever people say it's not about the money, it's always about the money. And when the government picks something, they're usually looking at cost also. So they chose the Sig Sauer over the Glock. So if the government says it's right, it must be right, correct? Not correct, folks. I just know that I love to listen to people say, well, the Army uses it, or the military uses it, or the police use it. Well, that doesn't always make things necessarily true, folks. What the government does is not always correct. The government does a lot of research on stuff and everything, but they take a lot of stuff into effect, and a big part of it being cost. But with this particular one, the module pistol, the Sig Sauer came out with, I believe, is more advanced than the Glock, and I'm always going to believe that. Now let's talk about ergonomics. The grip angle on a Sig P320 is a lot more ergonomic. When anybody that grabs one of these things that says that it's not more comfortable, than grabbing onto this weird grip angle Glock. Well, they're lying to you folks. Now, it's all about training, and if you train with a Glock every single day, the Sig Sauer is going to feel weird, but the Sig Sauer will have a more natural feeling when you pick it up if you're a first-time handgun owner. And I've done videos on this before. If you grab onto this gun and you hold your finger straight out, if you'll notice, the finger's aiming down with the Glock. And when you do it with the Sig Sauer, if you aim your finger in a natural way, you'll notice the finger is going straight. This has more of the conventional quote unquote 1911 grip angle, so it's going to feel a lot more natural in your hand when you hold the Sig Sauer. Now, if you take somebody out to the range that's never fired a gun before and you want them to pick up a gun that feels very natural in their hand, the Sig Sauer 320 is going to feel more natural in their hand than a Glock will. It's just a fact, folks. I know the Glock people are going to hate it, but the grip angle thing is a big deal. Glock did it for a reason. I have videos going into grip angles and why people do things they do, why they manufacture things, but the grip angle on a Sig Sauer, in my opinion, is better than the Glock. So one more point towards the Sig Sauer over the Glock. And then Glock people, they're like a cult. You know, you cannot tell them something is wrong with their mighty Glocks. They're going to get upset and they're going to start bashing you on the internet. Well, folks, bash me because this gun is a little bit more advanced than this gun. There's been virtually no changes to these guns in the past, 30 years? Besides a couple little things they do, and they put a new generation thing, but basically they're built the same, they operate the same. This is years of research, watching these guys and figuring out how to perfect it, and that's what Sig Sauer did when they made the P320 platform. They basically perfected an already established platform, the striker fired polymer frame platform. So which one is better? I mean, they're both 100% reliable pistols. You're not going to hear anybody say that any of these are going to be any less reliable than any of the Glocks. And I know the Glock perfection is a thing, and it really is true. They are really pretty perfect when it comes to reliability. But Sig Sauer P320 platform is equally as reliable. Now, there's a lot of things to consider when you're looking at these. Cost is going to be a big thing. You know, aftermarket support. People like to modify things. You're not going to have a problem with either one of these folks. They're both going to have huge aftermarket support. They're both going to be reliable. They have a comparable one. As you can see, I have comparable ones in every single size, every single caliber, or anything. Now, these are just the bottom 4 or 9mm and the top 4. If you notice, I put them at the very top because they're top tier or 45 ACP. But anyway, folks, these things had a couple questions on whether they were drop safe, and there's a few instances that happened. There was a couple bad apples out there, and I believe they got that fixed out. But there's been bad stuff happen to Glocks too. You know, you can buy a regular Glock 19 like this that absolutely doesn't work. There's always going to be a bad apple in every batch, folks. And unfortunately, when you get two heavyweight companies like this, that when something bad happens, it makes headlines everywhere. And that's just part of the game. People are going to talk. Bad news goes a little bit of bad news goes a lot further than a whole lot of good news. So nobody ever goes into a restaurant and goes around and tells their friends how great it is. But if they had a bad experience, they're going to take out a newspaper article about it. That's just the way it is. But anyway, folks, let me know which ones you think is the better platform, the P320 by Sig Sauer or the Glock platform by Glock. But anyway, folks, thank you very much for watching my video today, and you folks have a great day.